Most people in life are looking for, how do I keep my restaurant running with the right type of clientele who will actually promote our restaurant on a regular basis. Most people don't take a lot of time to promote a restaurant that is bad. Matter of fact, they might turn around and tell a couple hundred people that it was a bad experience. It also depends on how much they care about a restaurant or a company as to whether they'll even bother. A lot of people today may just expect mediocre service from different places that they purchase food. But in a time of healthcare crisis, we are most conscientious about who serves our food, who protects our sanitation, and who literally understands our needs. The challenge I feel today is that I've literally spent the last 3 evenings enjoying my meal that is usually high quality at a company that I love. I love this company, and I used to literally eat there almost every morning when I was losing my wife because she was no longer available. My challenge with these current younger employees is that they are not very good at knowing who is who in the world. When I'm making this audio track, I'm giving you some information. I'm providing you some suggestions that I'm openly saying as a marketing person, as a consumer of goods, as someone who has the right to sit down with a meal with purchased information and continue my life without someone interrupting every little time I sit down. It's my right to do so. And if this is not okay with you, then you should tell me politely. You don't go out into the world and create records on my life. If you're talking about something else, then that's okay. But I actually had a girl who alleged that she worked for that company come out in a uniform with the name badge and everything else. She sat down, or literally it was standing with me, and then eventually sat down at my table outside in the lovely cafe area where they've got box gardens and great trees for shade, and start to talk to me about her family and what her family personally does in the community. She wondered if there was something that not only that she could do, sort of alluding on behalf of Panera Bread Company, sorry, I should have probably said that, but also with her connections on a personal level to help me in my current moment of struggle. We had a lovely conversation for almost probably an hour, and what was amazing is at the end of that time, in her uniform, even though she had originally officially gotten off the clock, she actually went inside with her own Power of One capabilities and purchased a gift card for me. She also said that she'd love to get me a lemonade and a little bit of noodle soup so that I might feel warmer for the evening coming. I was just so impressed with this young professional woman, not only how she handled the awkward relationship of being an employee of a company and having policies and procedures she needed to follow, but also her own initiation of trying to personally help me with some of her network connections that she has because of her volunteerism in her own free time. If I'm making sense to the people listening, wonderful. If I'm not, that's okay too. But the point is, as a consumer advocate, we have to let people know what is and isn't real. What I find about this particular location in general is that it's pretty good. But what's annoying as hell is when I'm being condescended to by people who are physically taller than me, but a hell of a lot younger than me. We're all standing around wearing these masks like bandits, and it's sort of interesting how different employees interact with people at the door. The first gentleman this evening barely gave me the time, but he did politely say he needed a little bit more, few minutes to finish up with the customer who was waiting under the car before he could serve me. Instead of actually coming back out to serve me personally, he sent out a man who was somewhat flippant in his attitude of, what is that you need? That was his attitude. I was there, and I had already told the previous gentleman that I was there to purchase supper with a gift card that I had received. I don't think it's an offense that someone's dollars, whether they're gifted or whether they're earned or whether it's discretionary money, is utilized at the same place on a regular basis. It's usually what most restaurants are looking for. When I'm talking about this, I'm not disparaging a corporation that I love, and everything I say is a rendered opinion. It is not a representation of that organization, and I don't like it when the monsters in the hood like to manipulate my words and change what I'm actually saying. You see, I've had several videos where they've actually changed my words to say as a representative of, and I've never said that in my lifetime. It's illegal and it's immoral, but I'm just putting that out there in case there's a shift in any of the language that doesn't make natural sense to my business opinion about my experience. in the last 2 days, after interacting with that one girl the first day, where I was led to believe that I was welcome and I could stay as long as I wanted to seated so that I could work and do things, I showed her my PowerPoint presentation. We exchanged information so that I might be able to speak with an older relative who was more in charge of their family initiative and volunteerism, and that was loving and kind. We discussed other things. A lot of other things, actually. It was a lovely introduction not only to this local branch of the company here, but to a human being who saw a need. Now, when she handled herself extremely well. I've had other experiences where employees could not handle the difference between when they're on the clock and when they're off the clock, and recognizing she was still in a uniform. There's a fine line there, and we all know it. But this evening and yesterday evening, I asked for something very, very simple. I said, with this sandwich that I literally am regularly buying and regularly eating, would you mind giving me some mayonnaise packets? On both occasions were they not only not in the bag, it was almost impossible to catch anyone's attention due to the way that the things are set up right now with the healthcare crisis, to catch someone's attention to get the mayonnaise. Tonight's sandwich was even worse. And I don't mean it wasn't good to eat. What I mean is that that gentleman who was so flippant to me at the door and somewhat condescending actually put hot mustard on my sandwich. I didn't ask for hot mustard, I asked for mayonnaise. So in that regard, it showed that he either intentionally did it wrong or he wrote it down wrong. But what I specifically asked for was my own condiment packets so I could apply it myself. You see, listening skills are critical for anyone in any industry. When we listen, we are openly telling someone, what you're saying to me is high valued in my life. And you are no different than any other customer, whether you walked here from a local house, whether you plied yourself here on a bicycle, whether you rode in on a chariot, or whether you came in by the family car. Every person's money is equal in this house. It doesn't matter whether you're a millionaire or whether you've decided, after you've spent a hard day schlepping things around and making a very humble or very impoverished living, that you chose to put your money in our restaurant. In life, we have moments of time to show people who we are. When I make a comment on a restaurant, it is rarely meant to disparage anyone. It is openly, hopefully encouraging that there might be some streamlining and training, because one little incident with me means nothing. But 10 or 20 similar incidents to 30 or 40 or similar incidents by employees that don't regard law, don't regard human rights, don't regard personal boundaries, don't regard how to separate out their emotionalism with their actual job function and duties, is a legal grounds at risk, or what we call for risk management teams to come in for retraining of employees. I had a horrible experience at Starbucks the earlier morning to what I experienced when I came to Panera that evening. You see, it's amazing how people forget the comparative value between different type of organizations that are relatively similar. I will never choose one over the other in my case. I've been a Panera lover my whole life. I do have a very odd podcast right now. It is not as successful as perhaps my marketing minutes when I was interviewing international authors, but where I am today and where I was yesterday doesn't mean the same thing. And openly, people are always going through things, always going through challenges, and the superiority of one video over another is not in question. The reality is, what I'm saying is that what I did in the past should not affect what I'm doing now, and what I'm doing now should not affect relationships of the past. At the same time, I'm rendering opinion about loving a company. I'm also saying that there's a few quirks as examples, not to embarrass them, but to say that, you know what I know about this company best, from my love of the one that used to be in the place that I used to live, is that when I shared it with a manager named Mike in my local store, what I experienced, he thanked me profusely, and he helped those younger employees to streamline their thinking about how people make a choice where they put their money. No matter what type of lifestyle they're in, no matter how rich or poor they are, they make a choice. And most places want people to choose their place to invest their dollars. So I want to just thank you for listening to this consumer advocate oriented video. I'm hoping that the people in power who are trying to help my lawfully wedded opportunity to really see that the wonderful beauty of someone willing to take a risk to share feedback is, it often represents several hundred experiences, not just one awkward one. The other thing I'd like to say is that employees at corporations have no lawful right to use gossip to harm a life. I'll be talking about a different company in another audio cast where I literally saw employee theft being put in trash cans so that an employee could pick it up later. I highly doubt that certain sodas expire, but that'll be in another cast at another time. I may slip back in occasionally into marketing mode because it is my life. I am a trained journalist, so I'm very observant, and I am sort of a political scientist or a lay political person because I'm very much aware how important it is for us to regard the laws of our land to keep us all safe from the infidels and the people that do stupid things because they just think that their emotions are far more important than following policies and procedures put in place to protect corporations that provide unique opportunities of employment and salary wages to our local community people. Thanks for listening.